Room 303 isn't just sold out, it's gone. Not torn down, just wiped from every screen and whisper. Tonight I'm standing where people once paid 4 grand to sleep, and the only key on the ring belongs to housekeeping because they needed extra space for toilet paper. Something happened that forced management to bury the story behind fresh drywall. And I got the one note that lets us slip past the paint and into the room the hotel swears never existed. 5 separate nights in the last 10 years, guests bolted from room 303 before sunrise. Same reason every time. Laughter phantom circling the bed like a second blanket. Then the air thickens with whiskey and cigars you didn't order, and you swear you hear ice clinking in a glass no one poured. 17 emails and a few threat of lawsuits later, the brass swapped the deadbolt for a mop handle. Room 303 became storage closet 3C. So, why? Most hotels skip the 13th floor. The Omni Parker House skipped a single room. Pull up the reservation page drop-down menu hops from 302 to 304, like 303 is cursed arithmetic. A leaked 2019 training vid shows the floor plan with the number blackbarred. My FOIA requests came back mostly Sharpie. Ask the concierge about it, and they will beam you a smile and redirect you to the story of how JFK proposed to Jackie downstairs. Anything but the square on the blueprint that's now drywall and denial. A quiet librarian at the Boston Athenaeum slid me a folder marked unsuitable for exhibition. Inside, one registration card, March 8th, 1914, George T. Whitaker. Wool broker, room 303. No checkout date. 2 weeks later, the Globe ran his obit. Found deceased, smile on face, cigar still lit. Coroner chalked it up to apoplexy, but the bellhop S diary tucked in the same folder adds. He laughed like someone else was in the room. The laugh wasn't his. Every decade since, March 8th repeats the show. March 8th, 1924 guests complain of laughter. March 8th, 1934, the same. You get it. After the 2014 incident, blogger from Portland fled at 3:03 a.m., luggage still spinning on the rack, the calendar finally cracked. King swung by for a 1999 signing and asked about haunted rooms. Night manager Lenora P. told him 303 had been retired. That winter King wrote 1408, flipped the digits, kept the 0. In the story, the room burns. In real life, they just slapped battleship gray paint on the door and called it Storage 3C. The movie gave us blood tsunami walls. Here we just get the ghost of scotch soaked into the floorboards. Play the audiobook inside the closet and the echo off metal shelves is, well, let's call it unsettlingly accurate. Globe Archives lists 38 complaints between 1970 and 2014. Odor unbearable. Reek of Macallan 25 and H. Upman's. Thing is, the hotel's never stocked hard liquor on 3, and smoking's been banned since 92. I cracked the 2008 bottle. The archivist slipped me. Yep, same nose. Set a recorder on the shelf. 20 minutes later, it picks up faint clinking. Then a voice, low and 1910s mid-Atlantic. Pour another. It's not mine. Across the hall, 304 used to be 305. They renumbered after actress Charlotte. Cushman died there in 1876. Guests in 303 swore. They heard a woman running lines through the wall lines Cushman performed the week she passed. 304 never reports a peep. Only 303. Whatever's here doesn't want neighbors, just an audience. Security footage from 4 nights ago. Elevator glides to the 3rd floor at 3:03 a.m. Doors yawn open. Nobody steps in. Guard radios maintenance doors stay open for 43 seconds. On the intercom you can hear it. That laugh. Same cadence as the 1914 diary. Maintenance log lists it as mechanical error. Sure, glass shelf in the closet, 3 feet of blank wall. Every recording picks up the rhythmic creak of a rocking chair. Problem. The chair would have to sit inside the wall. I press my palm to the drywall ice cold. Smells like a speakeasy. Thermometer drops 6 degrees in 30 seconds. No vent, no draft. HVAC guys swear they didn't root anything behind that patch. 2014 board meeting minutes verbatim. Option A, exorcism PR nightmare. Option B, brick it up, call it storage, move on. I set a REM pod on the shelf. Lights stayed blue note EMF until I asked, George, why the laugh? The pod flared red for 30 seconds straight. Then the battery died. Temperature dipped again. I left at 3:33 a.m. The elevator doors were still open, patient. So no, you can't book room 303. The Omni Parker house isn't running a hotel. It's running a cover-up in cedar and bleach. The room isn't gone just unlisted. If you smell whiskey in the corridor tonight, don't call the front desk. They'll tell you storage 3C is empty. You and I know better. It's occupied by something that checks out at sunrise, leaves the cigar burning, and still hasn't paid the minibar tab. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a whiff of something that shouldn't exist in a hotel hallway. And if you're ever here in March, maybe take the stairs. After leaving the closet, I wandered the third-floor hallway, flashlight cutting through the thick, stale air. The peeling wallpaper seemed to twist under the beam, forming shapes that weren't there a second ago. Every so often, I heard the faint shuffle of feet, soft, deliberate, stopping when I stopped. At the far end of the hall, room 302 sat dark, normal, completely unassuming. But the moment I turned my attention back toward where 303 used to be, the hallway felt longer. My pulse quickened as the faintest whisper tickled my ear. Don't leave. Curiosity, or maybe foolishness, drew me closer to the old storage 3C door. The paint was fresh, almost too clean, but if you leaned in, you could see scratches underneath like claws, small and precise, circling a single mark on the wood. I ran my fingers over it, and the temperature dropped so fast my breath fogged instantly. Then came the smell tobacco and something metallic, sharp. Not whiskey this time, something far older, like old blood and rusted keys. I held the flashlight steady, but the beam wavered. The shadows seemed to breathe, expanding beyond the corners of the hallway. I stepped back. The sound of a rocking chair, slow and methodical, echoed again from inside the wall. Only this time it wasn't faint, it was almost taunting. I realized the air itself had a rhythm, like someone pacing just out of sight, matching the creak. I tried to call out, "Hello, anyone here?" My voice was swallowed almost immediately. The temperature dropped another 6 degrees. My REM pod flared red again, screaming warnings I couldn't understand. Then silence. Perfect, suffocating silence, except for the faintest whisper of laughter, soft, almost intimate, like someone had been waiting for me for 100 years. I backed into the hallway, heart racing, and noticed the elevator at the end of the hall. Its doors were wide open, still glowing faintly in the dim emergency lights. I swore the floor indicator blinked 303 for half a second before switching back to 3. Something or someone was acknowledging me. I didn't take the stairs this time. I didn't run either. I walked slowly, trying to convince myself that every chill, every whisper was nothing. But as soon as I reached the lobby, the scent of whiskey hit again. Not poured from a bottle, not an accident intended. And above the reception desk, the small brass sign read, in perfect cursive, room 303, not available. I know better. The room is still there, somewhere behind walls, paint, and denial. And if you think you're safe walking these halls at night, think again. Because room 303 doesn't need doors to exist, just someone foolish enough to notice. After seeing the brass sign, my instincts screamed to leave. But something, call it curiosity, call it dread, kept my feet moving toward the stairwell. Each step creaked under my weight, echoing through the empty lobby like a warning. The stairwell smelled damp and decayed. The walls were scratched, long jagged lines, some fresh, some centuries old. And at every landing, I thought I saw shadows darting just outside the corner of my vision, vanishing whenever I turned. The air grew heavier, each breath a labor, thick with that same metallic, tobacco-laced stench. I reached the third floor again. The hallway stretched farther than it should have. The numbers on the doors flickered in the dim emergency light, but 303 was gone. Instead, a blank wall stared back. My heart pounded. Then I saw it, a faint outline of a door frame shimmering as though the wall itself were melting. The whisper came again, clearer this time. "Come in. We've been waiting." My legs moved before my mind could protest. I was standing in front of the outline, feeling the warmth of it, or was it heat radiating from some malevolent presence? I reached out. The wall gave way. It was soft, almost like stepping through water. And then I was inside room 303. The room was impossibly large, much bigger than the floor plan allowed. Shadows clung to the corners, yet moved independently. The air was thick, pulsing with something alive, whispering fragmented sentences. "Stay. Don't leave. Never again." A rocking chair in the center moved slowly, but when I blinked, it was empty. On the bed, a figure lay, but it had no face. Only darkness. It raised its hand toward me. The moment I stepped closer, a cacophony of whispers exploded, hundreds of voices screaming at once, but none with words I could understand. The floor beneath me shifted. I stumbled, almost falling into a blackness that seemed to have depth, an infinite pit, yet I could still feel the carpet under my feet. My flashlight flickered, casting elongated shadows that danced on the walls, forming grotesque faces, some familiar, maybe even mine. I wanted to leave, but the door had vanished. The whispers softened to a single voice. "You can't leave, not until you remember." Suddenly, memories that weren't mine flooded my mind. A man screaming as the walls closed in. A child crying behind locked doors, faces pressed against glass. All of them trapped, all of them screaming silently. And then it clicked, room 303 didn't just haunt the building. It trapped the souls of anyone who noticed it. I ran, or at least I tried. The room stretched endlessly, the walls bending and twisting, trapping me further. Each step forward brought me back to the rocking chair. The figure raised its faceless head and whispered, "Welcome. You've arrived late." Then everything went black. When I woke, I was in the lobby. The clock showed 3:03 a.m. The brass sign above the desk read, "Vacant." My pulse was racing. My flashlight lay shattered on the floor, and on the elevator indicator, blinking faintly, one number, 303. I haven't gone back, and I don't plan to. But sometimes, late at night, I hear the whispers again, calling me back. Since that night, I haven't been the same. I moved away from the town, tried to forget the hotel, tried to live a normal life, but room 303 has a way of creeping into your mind. It started small. Shadows flickering at the edge of my vision, whispers when the wind was still. The feeling of someone standing just behind me in empty rooms. I would wake in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, hearing the same faceless voice. "You can't leave. Not until you remember." Then came the dreams. I was back in that room, walking endlessly down hallways that stretched farther than the laws of physics allowed. The walls were alive, breathing, pulsating, groaning. The faceless figure was there every time, watching, waiting. And the whispers, they weren't random anymore. I began to understand them, fragments of memories that weren't mine. The hotel manager who disappeared without a trace. A child locked in a closet for a punishment that never ended. Guests who checked in and were never checked out. And worst of all, the whispers told me that I wasn't merely a visitor. I was chosen. Part of a cycle that room 303 had maintained for decades. Every person who noticed it, every soul who felt its pull, became a link in the chain. And now, so had I one night, I saw it in the corner of my apartment. A door frame, faint, shimmering like smoke. My heart froze. The faceless figure emerged from it, stretching impossibly, its presence swallowing the room. It whispered in a voice both familiar and alien, "You remember now? You belong here." I ran through the city streets, but the shadows followed. Reflections in windows showed the room instead of my own apartment. Friends reported hearing me scream in the night, but when they came to check, my apartment was empty. Only a faint rocking chair creak echoed through the air. I've tried everything to escape. Therapy, moving, leaving town, nothing works. Every hotel I enter, every hallway I walk down, I feel it calling me, pulling me. The number 303 appears everywhere on clocks, receipts, license plates, even my own phone. And tonight, I woke up to a note on my nightstand. "You're late." No signature, no handwriting. Just those 3 words. And in the corner of my room, faintly glowing, a door frame. I don't know how long I can run. But I do know one thing. Room 303 doesn't just exist in the hotel anymore. It exists wherever I am. And now it's waiting. Since that fateful night in room 303, my life has become a waking nightmare. I thought moving away, changing cities, and avoiding hotels would protect me, but the room, it doesn't care about distance. It's everywhere now. I started seeing it in reflections, not my own face, its face. Blank, featureless, yet terrifyingly familiar. Shadows stretch unnaturally in my apartment. Corners that should be dark are glowing faintly, just enough to make me question my sanity. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Stress, lack of sleep, trauma. But that voice, always whispering, always patient, proved otherwise. The whispers have grown bolder. They know my name. They know what I fear. They tell me things that no one could possibly know. The exact time I lost my first job. The secret fear I buried in childhood. The thought I had only a second ago. Each word is a thread, weaving me closer to the hotel, closer to room 303. And then came the letters. Plain envelopes with no return address appearing on my doorstep every few days. Inside, typed in a font that seems to move if you stare too long. "You left too soon. Return, remember." One letter had a small key taped inside. I don't know what it opens, but holding it, I feel the room's pull stronger than ever. At night, I dream of hallways that bend, staircases that descend into darkness, doors that open and close of their own accord. And at the end of every hallway, always, is that faceless figure, waiting, arms outstretched. People started noticing changes in me. Friends call, worried about my sleep-deprived face, the tremor in my hands, the way I flinch at shadows. I try to laugh it off. I try to insist I'm fine. But deep down, I know it's too late. Room 303 has already claimed a piece of me. The strangest part? Sometimes when I blink, I see fleeting glimpses of other victims in my apartment, silent figures, staring at me from corners, mirrors, behind glass doors. They never speak. They never move. But I know they are trapped, just as I am, caught in this endless cycle. And tonight was the worst. I woke up to find the door to my apartment slightly ajar. I don't live in a place with a hallway outside my door. It shouldn't be possible. Through the gap, I saw it, the faceless figure emerging slowly, stretching impossibly, its presence warping the air around it. My apartment seemed smaller, the walls breathing. It raised one hand, pointing directly at me. And in a voice that sounded like every whisper I've ever heard, "It's time." I fled, but the streets were empty. No cars, no people, only shadows stretching unnaturally, as if the city itself had transformed into the hotel. Each flickering streetlight revealed another doorframe, glowing faintly. Room 303 is coming. It's coming for me. I don't know if I'll survive the night. I don't know if anyone will ever believe this. But I have to warn you, If you ever see a door that doesn't belong, if you hear whispers where there should be silence, don't ignore them. Room 303 is patient. It waits. And once it notices you, there is no escape because the room, it remembers. And it never forgets. Since that fateful night in room 303, my life has become a waking nightmare. I thought moving away, changing cities, and avoiding hotels would protect me, but the room, it doesn't care about distance. It's everywhere now. I started seeing it in reflections, not my own face, its face. Blank, featureless, yet terrifyingly familiar. Shadows stretch unnaturally in my apartment. Corners that should be dark are glowing faintly, just enough to make me question my sanity. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Stress, lack of sleep, trauma. But that voice always whispering, always patient, proved otherwise. The whispers have grown bolder. They know my name. They know what I fear. They tell me things that no one could possibly know. The exact time I lost my first job, the secret fear I buried in childhood, the thought I had only a second ago. Each word is a thread, weaving me closer to the hotel, closer to room 303. Then came the letters. Plain envelopes with no return address, appearing on my doorstep every few days. Inside, typed in a font that seems to move if you stare too long. You left too soon. Return. Remember. One letter had a small key taped inside. I don't know what it opens, but holding it, I feel the room's pull stronger than ever. At night, I dream of hallways that bend, staircases that descend into darkness, doors that open and close of their own accord. And at the end of every hallway, always, is that faceless figure, waiting, arms outstretched. People have started noticing changes in me. Friends call, worried about my sleep-deprived face, the tremor in my hands, the way I flinch at shadows. I try to laugh it off. I try to insist I'm fine. But deep down, I know it's too late. Room 303 has already claimed a piece of me. The strangest part? Sometimes when I blink, I see fleeting glimpses of other victims in my apartment, silent figures, staring at me from corners, mirrors, behind glass doors. They never speak, they never move. But I know they are trapped, just as I am, caught in this endless cycle. And tonight was the worst. I woke up to find the door to my apartment slightly ajar. I don't live in a place with a hallway outside my door. It shouldn't be possible. Through the gap, I saw it, the faceless figure emerging slowly, stretching impossibly, its presence warping the air around it. My apartment seemed smaller, the walls breathing. It raised one hand, pointing directly at me. And in a voice that sounded like every whisper I've ever heard, it's time. I fled, but the streets were empty. No cars, no people, only shadows stretching unnaturally, as if the city itself had transformed into the hotel. Each flickering streetlight revealed another doorframe, glowing faintly. Room 303 is coming. It's coming for me. By morning, I found cryptic messages carved into the walls of my apartment. Phrases like, don't forget, return, and we are watching, etched deep into plaster that was never there before. My furniture was rearranged. My photographs were shredded and scattered like confetti. Even the mirrors were cracked. But the cracks formed symbols. I didn't recognize runes that seemed to shimmer in the corner of my eyes. Sleep has become impossible. Every time I close my eyes, the faceless figure appears, always closer, whispering fragments of memories that aren't mine. I can hear voices of other victims begging, crying, screaming silently. Sometimes when I touch the walls, they feel wet, like cold blood or condensation from another dimension. I tried to escape. I drove hundreds of miles away, changing my number, my address, my name, but it doesn't matter. I see doors where there should be walls. I hear the whispers in every elevator, every stairwell, every empty street. Once I passed a hotel and instinctively froze. I could swear one of the rooms, the third from the end, on the third floor was glowing faintly, beckoning me. Room 303. Last night, I woke up to find my apartment entirely dark, except for one doorway that hadn't existed before. A faint light flickered inside, and I felt a pull, a gravitational tug I couldn't resist. I approached, trembling, and when I peeked inside, it wasn't my apartment anymore. It was the hallway from my nightmare, stretching endlessly with countless doors, each numbered in sequence, 301, 302, 303, and so many more doors I had never seen, doors that seemed impossible. The faceless figure appeared at the far end, motionless, yet somehow moving closer. The air grew heavy. My chest burned. I felt as if I were being swallowed by darkness, pulled toward a reality I shouldn't exist in. And then I realized the letters, the key, the whispers, the visions. It was all a trap. All roads lead back to room 303. I don't know if I'll survive the next night. I don't know if anyone will ever hear my story. But I do know this. If you ever see a door that doesn't belong, if you hear whispers where there should be silence, don't ignore them. Room 303 is patient. It waits, and once it notices you, there is no escape, because the room, it remembers. And it never forgets.